I have here 3 Ninjago sets from 2011, the Skull Truck, Knuckles ATV, and the Lightning Dragon Battle, and these were actually the last 3 sets I needed to complete my 2011 Ninjago collection. I'll walk you through how I got these sets and then we'll talk about them.
So a long-term goal of mine has been to collect all of the kind of regular release Ninjago sets from every wave. I started doing this when I was a kid, so I managed to get a lot of the very old sets when they were on store shelves, which is really great considering some of the prices now. But there are holes, there's some stuff I've been missing. If you saw my video last week, I got 2 more spinners that I didn't have from 2012. And this week, the last order just came in to create actually 2 sets from 2011 that I didn't have, the Skull Truck and Knuckles ATV. Now the way that I got these sets was not through buying a eBay listing or getting them sealed. I actually just decided to bricklink all of the parts. I did buy a fair amount of these used, and some of the parts are a lot grosser than others, so I will have to do a little wash and clean just before we start building everything. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we'll be cooking up some Legos. Just kidding. We're not cooking them, but we are cleaning them. There's not like a science to this. I don't know. Honestly, rinsing is the harder part just because pieces have so many little places for soap to hide. And then these are just gonna live on a towel. It's Saturday morning and it's snowing outside. I got the instructions on my iPad. I have all the parts cleaned and dried, and so I think it's time to start building these. Okay guys, I need you to trust me. I didn't plan on doing this today, but when the iron is hot, I got the Skull Truck and Knuckles ATV by buying all the parts individually on Bricklink. These 2 don't have sticker sheets, and there's like 1 printed piece on the back of the Skull Truck. Other than that, there's nothing really exclusive. And I didn't buy the figures because I already had them, and these are super fun. I love this little truck here. Anyways, then I happen to go on Facebook Marketplace and I see it, the final set from 2011 that I need. So I got the Lightning Dragon now. So the listing showed it built, although the guy actually disassembled it for me, which is kind of fun because now I get to experience building it. All the minifigs are here: JDX, Woo, Cruncha, Frackjaw, the spinner. The real star of the show, though, are the dragon pieces. Obviously, this head is very, very specialized. Anyways, I'm going to go build this, and then we'll talk. So here is the Lightning Dragon Battle, and this one is probably the most expensive set from this original year on the aftermarket nowadays. And that's really to do with the fact that this was a limited release. I believe it was a Toys R Us exclusive in the United States, and there's a lot of parts that only come in this set. The head obviously is exclusive to this set, featuring a lot of very nice printing. I do like the little lightning bolt in the eyes there, and this chin is also exclusive, only coming in this color in this set. The one from the other 3 dragons is a slightly more orange paint down here, so this one is unique because it's more yellow, I suppose. The other major exclusive part is these helicopter blades in medium blue. They only came in this set, and obviously there's 8 of them for the wings. If you were piecing together one of the other dragons, you would have an easier time, but this is the only time this part appeared, and you do need 8 of them, which makes it very hard to find the correct quantity. You can see there's sort of 3 main body segments there, and they do adjust, so you can have it do some crazy poses there. The tail in the back spins around, but also has just some ratcheting pieces to pose it however, and you do have that lightning on the end, which is a very nice touch, I think. The legs are all built the same. You just have one little ball joint and then the bionicle sort of claw foot piece that they used for all of these dragons, and it works well enough. I think it's easy enough to tuck them out of the way, though you do end up kind of angling on the side. It is obviously not as good as some of the articulation we have nowadays, but it works well enough. And you do actually have 2 points of articulation on the wings. There is this point up and down, which also works front to back, and then you have a joint up here. So you can actually kind of pose this thing however. You can bring it all the way forward. If you wanted it to be like the fire dragon, you could do that. So there's really a lot of motion around here. You can fold the wings up and have them tucked away, or bring them out, and
fly front. You have the claws on the front there, that's pretty standard, and actually these very, very long spear pieces which attach right here. I assume that's a weapon for the minifigs to hold. Similarly, in the middle you do have the two golden spears. You get two flags, and this part was used in a lot of Ninjago sets in 2011 and 2012, and I believe it's just some actual Chinese characters, so it doesn't mean a whole lot. You've got a spot up front for your pilot, in this case JDX, and yeah, I mean, this thing just looks great. I can't wait to display this with the other dragons as well. One spot where I wish there was better articulation is actually right at the front. The head is on a ball joint and can look up and down, but I do wish that this neck component, it's meant to go side to side, and so you could kind of have the dragon looking off to the side, but it doesn't go up or down, which seems like a miss, because if it did go up or down, then you could have the dragon, you know, looking up more and looking more menacing that way, but they did not do that. That is a simple part swap if you wanted to do something like that yourself, and the piece to do it is actually included elsewhere in the set, so if you found some way to compromise on other joints, you could make it happen. Going back to the head, obviously it has that play feature, which all the early Ninjago dragons had, and they did include two of these ball pieces, so that's very good, although there's not really anywhere to store the other one. You also have this helicopter side build, and this is really unique for the skeletons. They had a lot of vehicles, but this is the only flying vehicle, and it also has like a jaw. The other ones had a very similar skull pattern on the front, but this is like a whole kind of brick-built skull design there, which you can lift up and put a pilot in. Interesting to note also that there's almost a tongue happening inside. If I put Frackjaw, who is wearing a little pilot hat in here, he doesn't really sit the greatest anywhere, but you can see him through the windows there if you want. And since he is sitting on the tongue, you can still open up this lower jaw and have it like eating. I think notching it once down is kind of the intended look. Obviously, all of the things spin on the helicopter that you would expect, and while this is so simple back here, it's very nostalgic old Lego, so I appreciate that. And you do have a little claw arm, so you could hold on to a minifig, and that is on string, so you could lower that down, grab something. If you really wanted to store this ball somewhere, you could have it in there and have it like the skeletons or taking a dragon power source or something. If this was Dragons Rising, maybe that's an energy core. I don't know. You do also get 4 flick-fire missiles, and these never work well, which is why we don't see them anymore, but basically the idea was that you'd flick the back and it would come out. Okay, that one actually was probably the best flick-fire missile I've ever done in my life. That's crazy. And it's cool because you do have 4 printed skeleton heads on both sides, and these were, I think, just a generic skeleton face from the Castle line that was out around this time, but cool to see it here in Ninjago as well. As for minifigs, you do get 4 of them. JDX, who is quite expensive nowadays, only appearing in this set, and Skeleton Bowling. He's got the nunchucks there. I do find it funny how they can never decide on how to build these things in 2011, but taking those off, you can see a better look at the dragon printing, and I love how it reflects the light. It looks so good. There's his stock face, and on the back it does say J, and has his symbol there. This is my second copy of this guy, but personally I think he's the best looking DX Ninja. Just the blue and gold contrasts so well there. This version of Wu came in a couple of sets, but is definitely a cool one to get, and he's been remade in Legacy quite a few times, so you probably already have this or a similar version. Printing on the back with that dragon there, and without the beard, that's a look at what's going on underneath. Cruncha is not special to this set, though it is notable that they give him his spinner. This was also available in the Cruncha spinner that was $10, but you know, it's cool to have another spinner, even if it isn't unique. There's a better look at the details on there. You don't get the spinner cards though. Sometimes when they included a spinner in a set, you'd get the set of cards as well, but this was not the case here. The Cruncha figure itself uses the same body as Chop Off, but the armor is unique to him. Whiplash also uses the same piece, and then that custom head that all the skeleton generals had looks really, really good. Lastly, Frackjaw as a pilot. You get the little pilot cap there. If you wanted to make him look the way that he should, you could steal Wu's hat, because he is also supposed to be wearing a hat technically. But If you have nothing on him, you can see that there's like some metal plates on his skull there, keeping them together, and that early armor piece is super nice to have again. I also got the instructions for the lightning dragon, so I figured we'd take a look at those. There is the interesting way that they tell you to use the swords with those ninja masks, and nothing else here. One book is the helicopter, the other is the dragon. On the back of this one, you have the 2012 poster with the snake, which was super ominous. Lego Universe, Ninjago, the video game. These are super nostalgic. I liked when they had so like pages and pages of advertisement in the back. There's some of the spinners. I believe these ones were the final wave, and then I guess Mountain Shrine was also part of the fall wave, and that's the whole fall wave all together. So you got the Earth Dragon, Skull Truck, which we'll look at in a minute, Blacksmith Shop, Fire Temple. Very iconic sets there. We'll also have a look at Knuckles ATV. I think this originally was $25 in the US, and you'll notice I am missing Kai's spinner. That is because it's the same spinner that comes in Mountain Shrine, and I pieced this together on Bricklink, so I didn't actually buy the figures. And while that spinner isn't terribly expensive, I didn't need a second one. I'll put them on Cruncha though, so you get the effect there. Obviously, the focus of this is Knuckles ATV, and you got a little spot for him up there where he just stands. You do have the levers that sort of act as controls, although they are a bit far away for him. I guess you could make it work if you tried hard enough, but it is kind of interesting that they did that. And I was quite surprised in 2026 to put this together and realize how simple it was. You have exposed studs on the sides that nowadays would be covered up, these random mechanical bits, and then on the other side you have this flame exhaust. I like that they have a Technic piece here, which blocks you from tilting it back any farther, but it is interesting that that's actually only on one side. The skull face at the front is super nostalgic. It's also in the Skull Motorbike and the Turbo Shredder, but you do have these elements on the sides to kind of create like a rib cage kind of thing. Not really sure. On the back you have some more pieces that are like almost fenders, but not really. And because you're using this just single Technic piece here, there is a lot of give in these wheels, and they're the big plastic ones. Definitely fun to play with as a kid. It's very springy. And the big thing, obviously, you have that giant missile that is actually a little hard to access. The skull face is kind of in the way of your hand, but that is how you would do that. You can't really aim this at all other than just moving the vehicle around. Though, if you're fighting somebody on a spinner, it is at the right height. Taking a look at minifigs, you have Kai DX, and yep, he looks really good. There's Kai in the back, it's got the fire symbol. You have his early face print, and just actually not the Sword of Fire, just a regular gold sword, which is interesting, but this is still one of my favorites. I was a Kai fan as a kid. And you have Knuckle, who has this very interesting weapon, sort of a mix on the axe. It's using a binocular piece and 2 spikes. But other than that, it's just the standard Knuckle. He has the custom head again, which looks super good. I do really like these things, and this shoulder armor, which Crazy also shares in a fair amount of sets. I believe this one was also limited release back in 2011, though it came out in the January wave, and I think a lot of people skipped it because honestly, it's kind of a worse Turbo Shredder. It's doing a lot of the same things as the Skull Motorbike and the Turbo Shredder, but honestly, it's doing them a whole lot worse. This was $25. For $30, you would get a much better skeleton vehicle and another minifig. You didn't get the spinner, but Kai DX does come in the Mountain Shrine too, and you don't get his cards in this set. You only get them in the Mountain Shrine. But as one to get nowadays, this is fairly cheap because none of these parts are exclusive. There's no prints. If you want some Ninjago nostalgia, and here is the Skull Truck. I have to say, after building this thing, I'm surprised that I didn't care about it as much as a kid, because genuinely, this is such a good playset. This is a vehicle that we see a couple times in the show, and I think this is sort of the chase to the underworld, though it should come with Samukai. Whiplash wasn't in that scene, but Whiplash was also barely in the pilots. And Garmadon shouldn't be there because he should be banished in the underworld, but still a very nice way to get Garmadon if you weren't getting the spinner or either of the other 2 more expensive sets. The truck itself uses these wild wheels. This thing is actually so tall, and there's actually a lot of suspension going on, both in the front and the rear. It's not per wheel, but it is just front and back suspension.
suspension. You can see those Technic pieces there and how to do that. And in the front, they have the upper and lower jaw separated so that when you use the suspension, it will actually eat a little bit. And so you can have this thing kind of rolling forward. You can trap Zane in there and have him get chewed up. But yeah, this thing looks super tough. I like the kind of obnoxious exhaust on the back. Up top, you can see we have this nice build for the engine. I do like how these cone pieces are kind of fanned out using those slopes. And you can see what's going on there. You do have the 2 windscreens, and then you have a little cockpit area, although it's quite small. I think the driver is kind of supposed to sit down here, although their arms will definitely get in the way, but it kind of works. And then you do have kind of studs on the side if you wanted to fit some other characters in there. If you wanted to recreate Samukai, Cruncha, and Knuckle in here, there actually is room to do it, though it's a little squished. There's also these little cages on the back. These just sort of sit on these pegs here, and that's another place that you could throw Nia or another captured ninja if you wanted to. Pretty nice stuff. I like the play pattern that provides, although I do feel like these will bounce off if you're bouncing the truck up and down because they're not actually attached. They're just sort of sitting there, though it's holding right now, so I don't know, maybe it's fine. The other play feature back here is this skeleton hand launcher. This is the thing that grabs Nia in the pilots right outside the blacksmith shop. And I actually have this built slightly differently than the instructions. This is how the instructions want you to build it, although I'm not sure if this is because these are older rubber bands or what, but if the hand isn't there, they do just kind of fall out. The 2 places they're supposed to attach to don't do enough to keep them taut. They will just kind of come out of place. I'm not sure if that was better in 2011 and that's just the rubber bands getting old or what, but the original play feature still works okay. It definitely works better than I expect it to, though as you can see the hand doesn't go very far. Taking a look at minifigs, there is that Zane again. This is just stock 2011 Zane. He's got the nice face there. Nothing on the back. Similarly, Jay, you have the nunchucks of lightning. It is funny that they can never decide how to build the nunchucks. Here you have them built on the bottom part of the T-bar, but in the lightning dragon, they're actually attached to the other side, to the sides of the studs there. And these 2 sets came out in the same wave, so kind of funny that they disagree on the proper way to build this guy. But there is stock Jay there, and you can see his face. Nothing on the back. Whiplash is such a cool skeleton. He's got a little axe there. He does have a worm growing out the side of his head, which is crazy for 2011. And then you do have that special armor piece that is slightly different from all the other skeletons. Lastly, another 2011 Lord Garmadon came in this set. He's got his wild staff there. And yeah, just all black with some printing. He's got the old helmet of shadows, but a pretty simple figure by today's standards, though one that I'm certainly very nostalgic for. So these are really cool. This is super exciting for me. I finally have the entire 2011 pilot season wave of Ninjago. The rest of my collection is actually in a different state. It's still at my parents' house. So next time I'm there, I'm definitely going to grab all of those older sets and bring them here, and I can have the full collection all at once. So stay tuned for a video on that if you want a review of the entire wave. If you're feeling nostalgic because it's the 15th anniversary and you want some sets, these 2 are pretty good. There's actually only 1 printed part in the Skull Truck, and this came in the motorbike, the Turbo Shredder, comes in the Lightning Dragon, though you're certainly not parting that set out. So it's pretty cheap. Then we get to the Lightning Dragon. Now, when I started planning this video, I just bought those 2, and I was like, cool, now I have these, I'll just wait and get the Lightning Dragon when the deal is hot. And then I happened to actually find one on Facebook locally while I was working on this video. And now, according to Brickset, I have the entire wave, except for this weird spinner thing and this weird card shrine and most of the poly bags. But the regular stuff I still have. For me, the Lightning Dragon was a collection completer item, and so I knew that I really wanted it eventually, and so I figured now is as good a time as any. But I would not recommend that for most people because this thing is outrageously expensive, which is unfortunate because it's a really good set, but for most people it's completely unattainable, and I would not recommend it. But those are all the sets I have right now. Again, stay tuned for a full wave review of 2011 sets when I have everything compiled in the same location. And I'm super excited to do that now.
The 2011 nostalgia is high with the 15th anniversary this year, and I'm excited to make more videos. So if you enjoyed this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. What's your favorite set from 2011? And I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Yeah, these are just gonna live on this towel for the next few days. I will come back and kind of, I don't know, mix them up again, get them to get the others, get them to flip over, try to dry off the other side, or maybe they'll be all dry tomorrow. I don't know.